Welcome back. The campuses in the United States, like here at Harvard, have become a significant arena for debates between the critics and supporters of Israel following the October 7th massacre. As part of our project, the tough questions are now addressed to Tziki Aviser, the founder of the Zionist movement Over the Rainbow. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
What do you think, briefly, about the hearing held for university presidents in the U.S. Congress?
Very important initiative which revealed a show of ignorance, arrogance, and anti-Semitism. Ignorant students have been shouting for a long time from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, without knowing which river and which sea it is, without realizing that they are calling for a second Holocaust. So in the name of freedom of speech, these presidents have lost their moral compass. It's good that the president of Penn University has resigned, and we will continue to fight anti-Semitism in academy with all our might.
The Secretary of State Blinken, here in the U.S., says far too many Palestinians have been killed. The strongest of our allies are questioning the legitimacy of how Israel is executing its war. Should that impact Israel's actions?
There is no secret way to tweezer terrorists out of civilians if they use those civilians as a human shield. There is no even one single Western army which can suggest a reliable operational option to isolate it, civilians, and just hit the terrorists if the terrorists are determined to kill their own Gaza citizens as a result of it. So we are going to eliminate Hamas, and we are doing it as best as we can to minimize casualties, but there is no magic wand.
Even if conservative estimates are right, with 16,000 killed, even if 6,000 of them are Hamas, that's still almost a 2-to-1 ratio of civilians to Hamas. That's a lot of civilians who have been killed. What is your response?
Killing innocent, it burdens the objective of the war. So it's not an Israeli interest. A humanitarian crisis in Gaza is also not an Israeli interest. This is Hamas' interest. There is no magic way to dramatically reduce collateral damage when Hamas's deliberate goal is to increase Gaza casualties in order for you to ask me that precise question. Hamas wants to stop the war in a cynical way by effectively killing its own people, by placing them in harm's way. And yet, the current ratio is lower than what it was at the beginning, and low in international standards from World War II through Iraq, Afghanistan. And in the end of the war, this war, you will see that Israel has one of the lowest ratios.
Well, look, maybe that's true. I mean, Hamas uses human shields, and that's a war crime. But that doesn't absolve Israel of its duties under international law.
And we are abiding to international law.
There's a debate about aid to Israel and attaching conditions. So many concerns here of Americans, including American taxpayers who have a say in this, about how this is being executed. What do you say to them? Because they hear you saying that you're abiding, in your opinion, by international law. But Americans also hear other experts saying that you're not, and they don't feel that it's up to the standards that they require.
Well, I would say we are fighting your war because the West is next. And if we don't defeat Hamas, you are going to face Hamas-like organizations in the United States. That's how it works. It hit New York. We are at the forefront fighting radical Islam terrorism, and therefore it's an American taxpayer's interest to back us fighting the war. We are not asking you to send soldiers, and we are not asking you to put in risk your people. But I do think it should be appreciated that we are fighting the global war against Islamic terror.
Finally, the longer this war goes on, it seems like Prime Minister Netanyahu is losing political support. What do you think about it?
Seems to me an exaggeration to put it in that way, but I don't want to comment on domestic Israeli politics. Certainly I won't attack the Prime Minister on international arenas. Here in Israel, there is a full consensus regarding the strategical object of this war, and we are focused on winning the war.
Tziki Aviser, we do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jim.